Indeed, the situation surrounding the Mindich case is currently unfolding quite clearly, not in a manner favorable to the crisis communicators within the president's office. Why? Because the international media's attention to this topic and the sheer volume of publications about the probably enormous and significant questions regarding the transfer of money to Ukraine, given the prevailing corruption situation, plus Orban effectively adding fuel to the fire, all culminated in Volodymyr Zelensky. It was compelled to offer commentary to highly respected international media organizations. He chose to do this through an interview with Bloomberg, during which he articulated several key points. From my perspective, he stated that the president of a nation at war should not, and indeed cannot, have close friends. And it is Volodymyr Zelensky who is, in effect, bolstering this entire narrative today with this particular decision of his. You can indeed mark this down as a truly unique moment. President Volodymyr Zelensky himself is personally initiating sanctions before the National Security and Defense Council, specifically targeting two implicated individuals. In the NABU case concerning money laundering from the energy sector and evidently from the Ministry of Defense for procurement purposes. These sanctions are specifically aimed at Mindich and Zuckerman, and as you're likely aware, neither Mindich nor Zuckerman are currently located in Ukraine. Both of them, it is reported, are currently located in Israel. Because, and this is quite clear, my friends, it's evident from this very document that both Mindich and Zuckerman hold Israeli passports. The sanctions that have been imposed, and please pay close attention to this as it's crucial, are not targeting citizens of Ukraine. The sanctions specifically targeted individuals who are citizens of the nation of Israel. And this is precisely where all of the other confusion starts to set in. So why exactly were these sanctions specifically levied against Israeli citizens? What legal ramifications will this entail for the ongoing investigation? What are the legal consequences for the extradition of these individuals, if indeed such extradition is even possible, to Ukraine from Israel, given they hold Israeli passports? And doesn't this suggest that the investigation will be conducted according to international justice principles rather than exclusively under Ukrainian legislation? All of this truly complicates the entire narrative, making it exceptionally intricate, and additionally raises a plethora of other very intriguing questions. So how exactly and with what specific passport did Timur Mindich manage to leave Ukraine? This question is being asked quite sharply right now by many opinion leaders. Look, Borislav Bereza writes, directly tagging Ukraine's president. So, to be precise, which of you is being untruthful? Is it you or the State Border Guard Service? Because the State Border Guard Service spokesman states that Mindich departed lawfully as a father of 3 children. Therefore, he exited as a Ukrainian citizen. Well, I must interject here. I'll show you that there's finally a clarification 3 days later from the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine, which has completed an inspection. It says, important information regarding Timur Mindich's border crossing, and further indicates that the circumstance under which Mindich was permitted to depart Ukraine was that his documents fully complied with border crossing requirements, specifically the fact that he has 3 minor children. So if a person, specifically a conscript and a father of 3 children, legally departs from the territory of Ukraine, then he crosses the border as expected using his Ukrainian passport, being a citizen of Ukraine. And so why then does this document concerning sanctions, the very screenshots of which I personally hold, explicitly state that both Zuckerman and specifically Timur Mindich are in fact citizens of Israel? Well, I mean, this is quite a confusing situation, isn't it? It's really quite a story. We're going to keep investigating this now. Please continue watching. I'm quoting Bereza. He departed as a Ukrainian citizen, yet Zelensky sanctioned Mindich as an Israeli citizen. So where's the suspension of his Ukrainian citizenship, Mr. President? Is the Mindich rescue still ongoing? Borislav Bereza, of course, is being ironic. And PS, by the way, have the shares of Kvartal 95 already been arrested and then given to the army, or is this some entirely different situation? So in essence, if an individual is now under sanctions, meaning they're subject to financial transaction restrictions, money transfers, and all other related dealings, then he's a co-owner of Kvartal 95 Studios. So what's happening with the studio? A solitary declaration suggesting we're merely jesting and Mindich serves as nothing more than a ceremonial figurehead for us is, quite frankly, wholly inadequate. So has it actually been transferred or not? And what's the situation with the citizenship? How is this all going to unfold? There's a clarification, and I really dug deep, finally locating it. It comes from Mr. Vlasyuk, who is the individual specifically responsible for sanctions policy within the president's office. He clarifies, thereby directly addressing the accusations made by individuals such as Borislav Bereza. He states that the designation of foreign citizenship enables the immediate and effective freezing of assets and accounts across diverse international jurisdictions. In addition, Ukrainian assets, Vlasyuk claims, will also face blocking measures. And I quote, "The sanctions are enforced for a term of 3 years, whereas the removal of awards holds no time limit, being permanent and indefinite." But there is no entry ban. Well, honestly, that would have been a complete disaster. So a person with 3 kids left the country. In short, they fled. Let's call things by their proper names. And subsequently, they levy sanctions, restricting his re-entry, treating him as an alien. That would be a total disaster. So Vlasyuk clarifies that no one intends to provoke the public. There's no entry ban, so he can simply return. The standard set of sanctions, which entail a complete and immediate blocking of assets, are also applied to individuals with confirmed foreign citizenship, as explained by Vlasyuk. This comprehensive measure ensures that even those with dual nationality face the full implications of the imposed restrictions, leaving no room for bypassing the asset freezes due to foreign ties. So that's the clarification provided. I'm unsure if this explanation meets your satisfaction or fails to do so. Moving on, the story with this citizenship continues. If sanctions were imposed on Timur Mindich and Cukerman, these 2 individuals who are technically Ukrainian citizens but also hold Israeli passports as if they were foreigners, then even if they include some kind of revocation, the standard package, and so on, if they are foreigners, then what exactly should we do about this situation? Look, today Honcharenko also posted an interesting fact that is now emerging and becoming clear to everyone. An important detail. During the searches of Mindich's offices where money laundering was taking place, they found dossiers on NABU detectives and leadership. Let me remind you that Mindich is not a Ukrainian citizen. This effectively means that de jure he's not a citizen under any circumstances whatsoever. And the fact that he possesses an Israeli passport provides clear evidence of this. He's not a citizen of Ukraine, but he has a Ukrainian passport, and according to that, he is a citizen. But here, for example, the sanctions were imposed, right? Not a citizen, so not a citizen. Next, what's coming? What are the legal outcomes? This dossier could have been created by Ukrainian Special Services monitoring NABU. So is that a hint at the security service or what? Logically, they worked for a foreign citizen. In that case, it's a crime, state treason by moles within the security service of Ukraine. Well, that's what it appears to be. How did these dossiers end up in Mindich's offices? Next, or alternatively, private security firms might have gathered such a dossier while simultaneously monitoring NABU detectives on behalf of a foreign national. Mindich, sanctions were imposed again, and sanctions were also imposed on Cukerman as citizens of Israel. And well, now what exactly is the logic here? Both of those actions are absolutely illegal and could certainly be characterized as acts of state treason. And whose act of state treason are we referring to? Mindich's or Cukerman's? Or from some as yet unsubstantiated intelligence gathered by Ukrainian special services or private security firms officially registered in Ukraine that were actively operating on behalf of a foreign national's interests. Everyone, my friends, every single person on this list finds themselves automatically placed there due to merely one single category. I'll show it to you once more. In the official document concerning the implementation of these sanctions, it's the column located on the left-hand side. Pay attention, it concerns the citizenship of the individuals these sanctions were imposed against. This is an extraordinarily scandalous situation which in effect completely upends the entire future legal process concerning, for instance, the accountability of these specific individuals to the Ukrainian state and the corresponding legal statutes. It fundamentally alters the trajectory of how such matters will be legally addressed and adjudicated. It is not merely corruption, my friends, but rather outright state treason. Next, Sviridенko, against this backdrop, records an appeal. She's actually filming a rather extensive video message, a quite substantial video. She states quite emphatically that she formally submitted a petition for the dismissal of 2 ministers, which serves as confirmation that both Halushchenko and Hrinchak had indeed penned and presented these declarations. No one has actually seen Halushchenko's letter, but Hrinchuk's is photographed and there's even commentary on it. Hrinchuk expressed her gratitude to the president for his confidence. Throughout her decade in power, the official always did her utmost. And then it's don't meddle in my personal life, asserting that time will ultimately set everything straight. Well, the issue at hand is that there's simply no available time to properly sort things out and establish order, unfortunately. And all these episodes, if proven true, will completely turn upside down the life of Mrs. Hrinchuk. Yes, precisely. The removal of 2 ministers is underway. And you know, sometimes I come across comments where people accuse us saying there's a war, yet you're discussing this particular kind of story. Listen, so here's something for you. I came across a rather illustrative post, quite revealing. This is the former chief of staff of Azov, Bohdan Krotevych. You are very familiar with this individual. A military man, indeed, a Mariupol defender, and essentially a hero who devoted substantial effort and his personal vigor to protecting this nation, all for the sake of its alignment with European values, its sovereign independence, and numerous other vital aspects. You know this perfectly well. So here's what Krotevych writes. Until Halushchenko and Chernyshov, he doesn't mention Hrinovich here, but until Halushchenko and Chernyshov bear true responsibility and are jailed without bail. All fined and punished claims just seem like populism. There's a noticeable lack of real change in the president's office and among the military's leadership. And you see, here's the context for you. Among the leadership of the army, specifically the general staff, it directly imperils the sovereignty of the nation state. Thus, Krotevych perceives all these elements as integral components of a unified entity. He views the conduct of the war, its ongoing progression, and the various corruption incidents within the defense establishment as intrinsically linked. Evidently, this information from NABU and SAPO about internal affairs still awaits us. It is a single entity. Ukraine is one whole. You cannot detach the war from the realities of life within the government's corridors. These things cannot be separated, and I concur. You either rescue pro-Russian cronies and corrupt figures, or you safeguard the state. No other path exists. Only the president or the people of Ukraine can make this choice. The second path is the most painful, but if the state's existence is at risk and the first fails, the people have every right to take responsibility. And here, echoing the words of a classic, I can respond to this post by saying this already transpired in both 2005 and 2014. The crucial question is, do we truly need this to happen again now? Why would people clearly lacking significant intellect and foresight behave this way? Well, if they happen to be citizens of another country, then the whole situation becomes entirely understandable. However, if these individuals are truly Ukrainian and genuinely care for this nation and its populace, a sentiment underscored by the president of Ukraine, then allowing matters to escalate to such a painful state as expressed by Krotevych, in my view, represents a truly dreadful chapter, a genuinely awful turn of events. And I'll return to the sanctions for a moment, just to offer you some food for thought, interesting points to consider. We have Mr. Novikov, you remember Ilya Novikov. He's a deputy, a lawyer who represents the interests of Petro Poroshenko. And he made quite an interesting comment. He was being ironic, having looked at the screenshots from the imposed sanctions, and with irony said, "Where do you get such disrespect for President Zelensky? He's going through such a tough time right now. His friend betrayed him. Why shouldn't we support him?" But then there's a lengthy post that doesn't even fit on the screen, so I'll simply read it to you. It's truly fascinating. Just listen to what Novikov has written. 2 distinct sanction decrees issued with a 9-month interval. On February 12th, sanctions were imposed against an old enemy, specifically Poroshenko, and then on November 13th against an old friend. Both times the government proposed to implement them for 10 years. For Poroshenko, it was set indefinitely instead, but for Mindich, it was reduced to 3 years. Indeed, information suggested the government proposed 10 years, but decisions shifted, making it 3 years, yes. However, Novikov writes that the key aspect is the use of the other sanctions provision against Poroshenko. This aligns with the principles of their application as established by law, specifically prohibiting him from concluding agreements and performing transactions. And this, according to Novikov, is a creative notion not expressly provided for by law, which simultaneously precludes participation in presidential elections and the ability to purchase a simple loaf of bread from a store. A thermonuclear option, particularly if the individual stays in Ukraine, is quite a handy device to deploy against adversaries. However, they chose not to implement such measures against their friend, Mindich. Once again, this is merely Ilya Novikov's viewpoint. On one hand, he's listed in the decree as a citizen of Israel, not Ukraine, so he definitely won't be a competitor to Zelensky in Ukrainian elections. On the other hand, why should we prohibit an individual from transferring their property to someone else? The court has not yet proven his crime. There is no verdict. The state must maintain a balance of interests and not interfere excessively with a citizen's rights. And Mindich poses less of a danger to the state than Poroshenko does. Poroshenko, after all, was the founder of the Party of Regions. Then there were the Kharkiv Accords and coal dealings with Medvedchuk. He's genuinely quite dangerous, unlike Mindich. This is something you must grasp.